Back. So we will call to order the budget hearing, and the entire board is present. So we will start with the report of the 2025-2026 budget.
Are we going to do the pledge or no?
I think we'll do that when we can be in our regular meeting. Is that okay? Okay. So we will start with that. If I even finish my sentence.
So I've requested an opportunity to steal Mel's thunder as it relates to the budget. So I'm going to just intro some topics, some high-level things that Mel will be going over as it relates to the 24-25 as well as 25-26 budget. I remember sitting at this table a year ago thinking and projecting where the work that needed to go into a strategic plan and a budget for the 24-25 school year. And to be at the point that we're at tonight for Mel to share some of the numbers, layered on top that there's also a referendum in there. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So we are projecting a surplus for the 24-25 budget. That is an unaudited surplus as it relates to, as we think about the self-insured component of our self-insured model, really due to the proactive measures of this board and some of the work that we did to really be thoughtful of having a balanced budget. We're in a good spot tonight, and I'm proud of the work that this board has done. We are also projecting a 25-26 balanced budget. As you think about what we've done with the strategic plan, we want to have key performance indicators that say not just a balanced budget, but a fund balance that is helping to assist a long-term maintenance plan. One of the things that we talked about with last year's referendum, that we will not come back for more deferred maintenance, and that is really evident in this budget. And so again, being thoughtful and thinking to the future is something that is reflective of last year's budget, as well as this next budget. Our goal is to significantly exceed expectations on all of those KPIs as it relates to budget. You're going to see some of them tonight, but we'll also bring more back in November and December as that final audited budget comes to us. And also just thinking about fund balance, we've talked a lot about that, and we've also talked about Fund 46 of putting money aside for future projects. I think a perfect example is playground equipment. Are we planning to replace playground equipment for the future? Or are we looking at a $7,000 cost like we did this fall? Thinking ahead, and Fund 46 gives us that ability. The final thing that I'm really proud of is, as I went out and all of the board members heard me talk about the potential mill rate of a referendum passed. I'll have you go to the next slide, Mel. This is the slide that we shared over and over. Last year, our mill rate was 702. With a past referendum, we were looking at an estimated mill rate increase of 26 cents. Looking at 728 is what we shared from a conservative estimate as we worked with Baird last year. I can tell you that we are significantly lower than that as we bring a new mill rate, really connected to, we've seen equalized values across this community and district increase, and so we're looking at the lowest mill rate in the last 5 or 6 years, and that includes the referendum dollars. And so wanted to start, and certainly still Mel's thunder, but she'll still be able to dig into some of this, but really proud of the work that we've done over the last year. It was not easy, but has put us in a good spot. So sorry to steal your thunder.
That's okay. Steal away. Questions on the highlights? That covers it. So good job. No. No, we're going to go. You wanted to show?
Yes. This is also something that we got really good feedback from community members as we went out in conducting informational sessions about the budget, about mill rate, about where public school funding is currently, and why we had deferred maintenance, and why we were where we were and needed a referendum last year. And so we shared this video and heard lots of feedback. And so we want to start tonight's budget hearing with this video that kind of showcases budgets in Wisconsin and how schools are funded.
Our public schools are the cornerstone of our community. The education and opportunities we provide for students today shape their futures and ours. Schools, like any organization, need money to operate. But in Wisconsin, funding the needs of our schools has been a growing challenge. State policy limits how much school districts can spend. The vast majority of school funding comes from a combination of state dollars and local property taxes. It's called the revenue limit, and it acts as a cap per student that school districts can spend each year. Even if school costs go above this level, schools can't spend any more than this limit. From 1994 to 2009, these revenue caps were adjusted for inflation, which meant they helped schools keep up with ongoing needs. But since 2010, the resources districts need to survive have fallen farther and farther behind the basic costs to operate our schools. By the end of 2025, the revenue limit will have fallen more than $3,300 per student behind inflation. With a district of 1,000 students, that's a decrease of more than $3 million. What's more, each district has a different revenue cap, and these caps are not tied to the needs of the students or the costs to the schools that serve them. Our job as a school district is to make sure all of our students have access to the exceptional educational opportunities we provide, no matter what their needs when they walk through our doors. But state funding falls short of what it costs to meet the specific needs of many of our students. When that happens, we have to use money from our general fund to cover the difference, which means taking dollars from other important needs. The largest portion of our budget goes towards staffing. Our people are the heart of our schools. Without enough educators who instruct, support, and inspire learning, schools can't provide the lessons, programs, and opportunities our students deserve. Other important budget items include curriculum, technology, transportation, operations, and maintenance. School districts work hard to balance their budgets, yet resources for schools have been shrinking year after year since 2010. With costs growing so much faster than funding, districts are always looking for ways to trim costs and work smarter, like deferring needed school maintenance, cutting programs, reducing staff, and many other strategies. But schools can only cut so much before they start to harm educational opportunities for their students. To maintain class sizes, keep up with rising costs, take care of school buildings, and protect high-quality instruction, many districts have turned to their community to help fill the state-imposed funding gap. Since the arrival of revenue limits, over 80% of school districts have done so by asking local voters to raise their caps through an operating referendum. Most have used the option multiple times. Our children don't have time to wait for state policymakers to fix the school funding system. By putting the needs of our students first, we are investing in their potential and the future of our whole community. Strong schools make strong communities where families want to move and stay. Learn more about school finance in Wisconsin by visiting our websites.
So just a reminder of that presentation that we shared last year, and wanting to kind of start off with that level. We did not go to an operating referendum. Our referendum was truly for facilities, and of course more updates to come on that. But I'll turn it over to Mel as it relates to levy and mill rate.
All right, thank you. Questions up to this point? Done. Okay. So we're going to kick it off. So the way that we have it structured tonight, we are going to start at a very high level, the budget at the tax levy and the mill rate, and then we are going to dive in a little bit further in the details. I am not going to run through, nor I think we'd be here all night if I ran through every single number. So just so you're aware, this will be high-level numbers, but if anybody is interested, whether you're listening online or here tonight, the budget booklet is available on the board docs. It's also going to be available on the website if it is not already. So you can dig into the numbers from that standpoint as well. So the key for the tax levy this year for the revised budget for 25-26 is truly that our equalized value, and Michael just hit on this quite extensively. We went from 2.6 billion all the way up to 2.9 billion. This is a significant jump in equalized value. And what that means is that our property value, or the value around us, is becoming wealthier. And in just like the show, the clip just said, the more that our taxpayers pay into the bucket and that revenue limit, the less state aid we receive. So with the increased equalized value, that means that we are more property rich, more property wealthy. So to equalize that across the state, areas that are not as property wealthy as us will get more state aid to offset that and reach that revenue limit. So there isn't one area or two areas in the state that get the majority of the funding. So that is the thought process behind the revenue limit. You can see how that breaks down from the city of Port, town of Port, Town of Grafton, Town of Saukville, and the Village of Saukville. Those are the municipalities that we do pull from. Out of this equalized value, in talking with Baird, they were able to calculate how much of this equalized value is coming from what we call new growth, which is actually exciting. It's between 2 and 3% this year. And that's significant because that is new taxpayer dollars coming into the area. So as the municipalities grow, it's not just taxing the existing tax group, it's expanding that tax group so that we have more taxpayers coming in. Does that make, hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So for the municipalities, you can also, I broke it down here for this year, you can see how much is going to the general fund. And just a little bit of history, the general fund is our operating expenses. That's mostly Fund 10. And then a referendum debt service is also in that second column there, and then our community service. So you can see where that all falls in line. And again, I know a question was even brought up with the referendum is how, what is the rates coming from? Why is it less than certain other areas or certain other referendums in the area? And it's because we are pulling from all 5 of these municipalities to pay for that referendum debt. So any questions on the levy? Okay. Breaking that even further down, as we talked about the mill rate, this is the last 4 years. And actually, I am happy to say, and it's kind of a statewide trend, but specifically here, even with our referendum debt in 2018 and our referendum debt now, we have actually seen this is our lowest mill rate we've seen in the last 10 years. So we did go back and pull that data. So you can see for 25-26, that general fund levy, which is that operating fund, and the debt service, the referendum, we are just slightly higher than our debt repayment. So that 7.2 is going to cover the debt payment that we have this year. It's also going to put just slightly over $100,000 into that fund so that we can pay the debt off earlier. And again, in the district historically, we've liked to do this, and it really actually benefited us quite significantly. If you recall from the last referendum, we were able to pay off $10 million worth of that referendum debt, which significantly saved the taxpayer dollars, not just last year, but it will in the long term as we pay back that debt. The $435,000 is for the community service. We are taking in more revenues, and I know that the board has asked to separate those funds that we receive in revenues and expenses, specifically for the theater, and we are continuing to monitor it that way. So just so everybody's aware, that includes the theater, that includes anybody that rents our spaces. If we have basketball tournaments here from an outside group, the city of Port, their rec programming, a lot of that uses our facilities. So that is what's funding that. It's the custodial, it's the needs to run the building for the community event specifically. And then the total tax levy for this year is going up. So it's going up, and I do want to just touch again, because that equalized value and because we are receiving less state aid, we are going to have to offset that with the local tax base. So that as the taxpayers pay more, state general aid goes down. It's just that pie. We have not expanded the pie. We're just shifting where that's coming from. So that is why we do see a little bit more in the tax levy, the total tax levy. The other piece of that tax levy is also repayment of the vouchers. We did see another increase in vouchers this year, which actually we will touch base on in a little bit in the more detailed slides. That is the repayment of those vouchers. So that comes directly off of our general aid, and then it gets then it is reimbursed by the local taxpayer. So I want to make sure that that's covered as well and included in there. You will see then that our equalized value percent increased 9.64%, and we've seen some significant increases in equalized value over the last couple of years, which then takes our mill rate down to 7. It's actually just slightly under 7. It's 6.998. So round that to 7. So our mill rate decrease is actually just slightly lower, and our tax increase is slightly lower at a negative 0.36%. Questions?
Mel, can you briefly explain how the voucher payments work?
So voucher payments are provided from this. Obviously, we track that. The state tracks that. In our district, we do have 2 voucher programs that we contribute to. So what that does is on our revenue limit worksheet is it actually takes and it calculates the amount of vouchers that we have to pay. and that comes from the general aid, the general education fund from the state level. So and by they, I mean the state will take the general fund for education, and that gets divvied up between all the school districts. But there is a portion of that that is going to the voucher program now, and that is then taken off of the general aid. So under our revenue limit, we have to pay for those vouchers, but we see a decrease in our general aid to pay for those. Okay. Any questions about the mill rate or the levy? And again, that's very high level, and we're going to go into some detail now to support it. So I want to kick us off with just a review of the 24-25 finances. These are unaudited, and what that means is our auditors are in the process of finalizing everything. There will be changes. There always is. So there's going to be changes specifically because of self-funded insurance. So the timing of when those claims come in, at some point we have to say we're cutting it off, and those are going to 24-25, and these are coming to 25-26. So there's always a part in this unique time frame where we go, okay, yep, those are going back, and now we have to close the books. We have to, run this up to the state. DPI is asking for our numbers, so there's always journal entries that we have to do to offset that. The other big one that came out last year as well are changes to how we report prepaid expenses. So our prepaid expenses specifically for subscriptions, so if we buy a curriculum for next 5 years, we actually pay for that curriculum in the first year, but it's tracked differently and through various expenses and revenues throughout the next 5 years. It's called prepaid expenses. They changed that. And by they, I mean the GASB statements and the way that we report it has been changed. And those rules have changed. So those are also being audited by the auditors to make sure that we are capturing what they're asking us to do properly and accurately so that we can push back to 24-25 the prepaid expenses that are supposed to be there and the prepaid expenses that are supposed to go in 25-26 given those new rules. Correct. It's just reporting and where it falls. So 24-25, just a refresher, beginning fund balance was just above 4.9 million. Our revenues this year were about 36.3 million, and our expenditures were almost 35.9. So that actually did leave us with a surplus as of now, again unaudited, at $470,000. I do anticipate if, as we've been tracking this will probably fall closer to about the $370,000 range. Sorry, $370,000 range, and that is probably it's probably pretty close to accurate after the auditors are done. Now they may find something that they want to push back again or forward. So if we take that 370, that is a huge plus because if you recall last year we did dive into and we deficit spent by $1.2 million to cover the startup of self-funded insurance and those prepaid expenses that first year change. So this is now going back and recouping some of that and allowing our fund balance to get to a healthier level. We are still in a very healthy range. We are within our policy range, which is 12 to 15%. We are on the high end of that. And what I mean by fund balance, and sometimes this gets a little tricky, sometimes fund balance sounds like a savings account. And it is in a way. However, it's not just sitting in our accounts, because you're going to see a motion in the future here. Actually, the next thing you're going to vote on is the motion to short-term borrow. And a lot of people get confused. Well, if we have a $5 million fund balance, why would we have to short-term borrow? And it also has to do with when expenses and when revenues fall. We obviously have higher amounts of revenue coming in from our tax base. Those are then provided to us at a later point than general aid is. So if we don't have enough to cover the expenses like payroll and those fixed costs, we have to short-term borrow. The fund balance is really a snapshot in time at the end of a fiscal year that says, after everything's been paid and you collected all your revenues, what do you have remaining? And within that fund balance, there's things called restricted funds and unrestricted funds. And restricted funds is what carries the majority of your fund balance, and it should, because you don't want just money sitting there not being utilized. We're not a for-profit, we're a non-for-profit. So we want to make sure that if we have something in that fund balance, that it's dedicated to something, we have a reason to have that money in there, which right now, a lot of it is in Fund 50. So Fund 50 is our food service, and that is a large part of that fund balance. That's savings, but at the end of the year, when we get our revenues and our expenditures, due to the money that we took in over COVID. That is a large part of the fund balance. Our self-funded needs a fund balance because we don't know from year to year if we're going to have more claims than the next. And then there's also a fund balance in some of our common school library funds. And those are specific, they have specific rules on how we can spend that money. So there are accounts that we have that can only be expended on certain things. And that is what our fund balance is. So it's really a snapshot in time when everything is said and done. It's not that we have this $5 million sitting in an account somewhere unused. Questions about fund balance and or what that means?
How does that affect our ability to borrow and our bond ratings?
Yep, so when it comes to borrowing, we have a really good working relationship with Port Washington State Bank and the local banks. So short-term borrowing, we typically, when we do short-term borrow, it's usually only for about 10 to 15 days, which means our interest rates and the amount of interest we're paying on short-term borrowing ranges anywhere between about $400, depending on the interest rates, from year to year, all the way up to like $950. Last year we had about $800. So we borrow that for about 15 to 20 days until we get the tax and our general aid in. We offset the expenses and we pay back then the short-term borrowing. So it really is, and it is a nice arrangement that we do have a good partnership with the local bank, so that we can make that work pretty fluidly. When it comes to our bond rating, yes, obviously they love it surplus spending, and they also love a higher fund balance. And that is what will ultimately get us a higher bond rating in the end, which is why this year, because of that 1.2 and the timing of when we went to referendum, that $1.2 million deficit spending, or what looked like it was deficit spending, but it went to a liability account, that is why we have the bond rating. We're not AAA. There's very few districts that are. We're still in that A category. We're just not at that high level. So the more fund balance that we can have and the more surplus spending or surplus that we have from year on year out is the higher rating we're going to get. Other questions? Okay. So when it comes to the KPIs that we've talked about, and Michael has shared quite extensively about for a strategic plan, we are currently with the unaudited, we are at exceeds expectations. We have a healthy fund balance. And we had a surplus this last year. And the reason that surplus deficit spending is in there is just what Sarah asked. We want good bond ratings in the future, and we also want to make sure that we have a healthy balance in there for years to come. So it's always, it's a delicate balancing act. You don't want too much. I think we've talked about that here at the board level, but we also want to make sure that we have enough to offset any unexpected costs that may come in the future. So it exceeds expectations in that level.
Just a note, that is more official in November once that audit is done, so we'll come back to, so this is somewhat of a draft KPI as it relates to the timing.
Thank you for clarifying. These are very small, so again, it's in the budget book. So you can see from last year, the actual 23-24, that 1.2, this year unaudited is at 470, and that is the general idea of the revenues and the expenditures that we have seen from year on year out. You see some consistencies, and if you recall as well, we've talked extensively about those ESSER funds. Those ESSER funds did finalize in 24-25, and we were a district that ended up utilizing more at the end instead of spending it right in the beginning, and that's why you see that increase on the federal sources. You can see that the expenditures are pretty in line with the increases that we approved, that the board approved last year. So you can see the expenditures and the budget, overall budget amounts are pretty close to accurate with the exception of those revenues. Also because we did see an increase in certain areas when it came to some transfers and some flow-through money from special education that we had. Questions about 24-25? So jumping into the 25-26 proposed revised budget, one area that we want to start with, and we talked about this last year as well, we are trending as a district in a declining enrollment trend, and we want to make sure that we cover that because so much of what our revenues are dictated by is obviously that property value and the revenue limit and how much of the pie is going to what. But the number of students we have coming to the district drives how much revenue we have coming in two different areas. It actually drives it on the revenue limit because that is part of the equation, and there's a lengthy equation in the background that they're doing. It's pupil count, and then they obviously multiply that by the revenue limit that we have set and the max amount that we are allowed to take in for revenues. And the less students we have, the less revenues we have coming in. The other piece of this is actually two pieces, twofold, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, is the per pupil aid that is outside the revenue limit, and then just general student fees and admissions. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. We do have another decline in enrollment from last year to this year. Last year, our 3-year average pupil count was 2,414. We are now down to 2,353. So that is a significant decline again. And you can see from the graph on that. This is just the number so you can see it. So you can see the arrow is where we're at, the 2,353. This is just explaining in numbers where the graph is. This is a lot. I'm not going to, again, go over every detail, but I think what we want to just put attention on, or at least bring your attention to, our largest class in the district right now, the most students we have in our district per grade is our senior year. So our seniors this year have 214 students. They're going to graduate this year, and what's happening is those kindergartners that are coming in are not reaching that new amount that are leaving. So if you look at the numbers, even from 129, across the district, 129, 130, 158, all the way up to 214, you see there's a significant trend there. So as we lose our seniors, our juniors, and our sophomores to graduation, we are not going to fill, or at least that's the trend right now, with those same numbers. So it is fair to say, if we are going to be estimating for the future, that we will see a declining enrollment, not just this year, but probably at least for the next 3 years. Questions on the pupil count enrollment?
So Mel, statewide and regionally, the counts in our districts are going down all over. It's not just us, it's here in the southeast region and the state.
Correct, yep, statewide
okay.
we are absolutely, and that's a good point, Yvonne, we are absolutely seeing declining enrollments. And actually so much so that even WASBO and CISA are actually looking to join forces. We are going to be doing a conference, and I know many of the business managers in the area are going to be attending that because this is a hot topic. If we continue to see declining enrollment throughout the state and in our districts, what do we do about it? And what can we do about it? And we have to start planning for that over the next 3 to 5 years. So it is definitely a trend statewide. It's not just us. Jumping to open enrollment. So open enrollment, we have students that live outside our area and enroll in to our district and choose to enroll in. And then we have students and residents who live within the district and choose for a multitude of reasons to obviously attend elsewhere. So this year, open enrollment incoming, so that is people who live outside the district and are coming in, are at 168.2. And the reason for the 0.2, I get this question, you can't have a 0.2 student. You can, because 4K counts as 0.6. So that is why you have those. They're real people. This is just based on the people count. So open enrollment outgoing, we have 179.6 outgoing. So you can see over the trend over the last couple of years, we are tightening up that gap, which is a positive thing, right? So as a district, we are seeing less students leaving and more coming in. We're just not closing it quite enough yet to offset each other. So it's 180 outgoing to that 168 if you want to go by the actual belly buttons. That's what we call it. That's what we do. So that's that total number resident enrolled compared to those out and in. I do want to just point out as well, open enrollment out, open enrollment in. This can be a huge plus for the district because this is revenue we do get outside that revenue limit. So as much as we are providing, a revenue for our other districts with the outgoing, we also are taking revenue in. So if and when, I'll say when, we get to a point where we are allowing more students in than we are seeing go out, we are going to have another revenue source there. And that's why open enrollment choice is actually something that we have a KPI on, and it's something that's really important for our district because it's another revenue source.
Do we have a breakdown on grade level or building as far as open enrollment out?
We did track that by building last year, so we can bring that back to the board. The next slide actually shares where those kids are going and where they're coming from. So we are looking at the districts where we're losing the most kids to and where we're gaining the most kids, but we can also look by building and bring that back as well.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that. Thanks.
Yep, we can definitely provide that. So the incoming, the number one school district that, or the area that we are bringing people or bringing students in from is Northern Ozaki, the next is Cedar Grove, Belgium, and then West Bend and Grafton. And then on the flip side, outgoing open enrollment, we are losing to Northern Ozaki, Cedar Grove, Belgium, and West Bend and Grafton. So you can see Grafton is our number one, and Grafton just in proximity. I know we talked a lot about that last year. Grafton is a close school district to us. And Northern Ozaki also has alternative options, such as virtual school.
McFarland, is that a virtual? So I'm assuming like Appleton, Grantsburg, McFarland, and Merrill are in Waukesha? Is Waukesha?
It may be, I know they have virtual options. I'd have to dig into the data. I don't know off the hand if they're doing virtual or not. They just open up into the school district. I can find out though.
I mean, I get it when there's a parent who works somewhere and it's more convenient for their youngsters to go to school where they work. And I can see Waukesha possibly being that, but obviously not Appleton, Grantsburg, or
Yes.
There have been people that left for jobs too, so they're no longer in this district, right?
What,
They would have to live here and they're open enrolling out, so they're.
correct. This is only individuals who have an address here, who live here and open enroll out. So yes, to Kirsten's point, more than likely, I can't say with confidence and or for certainty, but a lot of those farther districts are probably virtual.
I just want to make sure that there's some way of tracking that if, for instance, when there are two families for a child, like are we paying open enrollment for a child who lives 50% in another area, or do you know what I mean?
Yep, I can track that further. Further questions about open enrollment?
I was going to ask this over the KPI, but to get at some of these questions, I know you're doing a survey of families who are enrolling out and also in, correct? Do you know when you'll be able to share that data with us?
Yep, we'll be able to share that in November.
Okay.
So we did do a survey of everyone leaving us, kind of the why, and then have also sent out a survey internally to all of those that are coming to us to just say, what is the why? Why are you coming to us and why are you leaving?
Okay, thanks.
So draft KPI for open enrollment, this is an area where we are developing. And that is also a primary reason why we are doing surveys, trying to figure out the why behind it. But as I mentioned as well, and this might be a KPI that we take a look at in the future only because we are closing that gap and we are starting to see more kids coming in and less students going out. But again, not enough to get us to that meets expectations area yet. So we have a lot more information to study around that. So then jumping in, so I go into that pupil count and talk about that because it is such a critical piece to the budget and the revenue limit and the general aid that we are receiving along with those other revenue sources. So our beginning balance, and this is utilizing that $470,000 surplus. So our beginning fund balance is 5.4. Our revenues this year are down about $1.7 million at $34.6 million, and our expenditures are down about $1.3 million. And if you recall, I know we talked heavily about needing about 1.2 last year, so this is meeting that expectation and creating that balanced budget. Now, I am going to call this a balanced budget. $21,000 to the plus is not a surplus, and it is not seen as a surplus in the eyes of the rating, like a bond rating. That is a neutral. And rightfully so, 21,000 on those large of numbers is pretty neutral. So we are coming in right balanced, right at the balanced standpoint, but it does move our fund balance to that 15.7% if the projected numbers fall to where they are at the end of 25-26. Questions on that? I do want to also point out, includes a higher transfer to special education. So last year I mentioned we took more money, and well, not took, but we actually utilized more flow-through money, which decreased the transfer we had to do from Fund 10 to Fund 27. And we also have a $200,000 transfer to Fund 46 that we already have placed in Fund 46, the fund of it, for the start of this year. So instead of waiting until the end, we are pre-planning that, and that is included in this budget. Questions? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Fund 10. So Fund 10 revenues, this is just a pie. Again, I like to showcase this just so that year in, year out, as we track these pies, we can see how much is coming from the property tax and fees and how much is coming necessarily from that general and state and per pupil aid. So you can see we still are receiving more from the state level, and that includes that per pupil aid and or other aids. And then property taxes and fees are in the blue. That's the majority of it. The open enrollment in is at 1.6, but again, just recall, we have more going out than 1.6. So expenditures are higher as well in that area. This is a comparison, which I think is it's just a nice snapshot of letting you know, again, just from a different angle, where the money is coming from and where the revenues we're going to be seeing. You can see that large, and it doesn't look that large, but that green under ESSER federal is probably the lowest amount of federal funding that we are anticipating in the last 4 years. So that is why that is so decreased. Revenue limit is the maximum amount of money a district can receive. As I mentioned, state aid and local taxes move in opposite directions. Just want to make sure we're covering that. So our general aid decrease right now, our decrease is $414,000. So again, I mentioned that is in large part due to just our property value in general. It also, that $325 that was added to the revenue limit for this year was intended to be funded by the taxpayer dollars. It was not intended to be funded with the general aid. So you're going to see in that, again, then the formula across the state ended up decreasing the general aid. So the vouchers, the general aid, our equalized value are all to be some of the causes and the root causes to that decrease in that general aid. Our property taxes, general fund levy increase is that almost $600,000. And that voucher payment increased, and you can kind of see the offset there, right? $420,000 almost goes to general aid decrease, and the $600,000, that leaves us with that $170,000 increase to vouchers that we're going to have to pay this year. Okay. Proposed budget, I do want to, as I mentioned, the declining enrollment for pupils, there's a lot of math on this slide. Just note that $742 per pupil is what we receive in per pupil aid. Last year, we received 2,462 times 742, so we actually received about 1.8 in revenues for per pupil aid. We anticipate that going down to about 1.78 this year, just only because of the decline in enrollment. The numbers have not increased. They don't anticipate increasing, so that is that 1.78. This also impacts our school fees and participation, and we are already seeing that in this budget. So less students, less fees, typically less participation at activities. And I know that sounds, it doesn't sound like it should have that big of an impact, but we are seeing that in our revenues over the last 3 years. With the declining enrollment, we are seeing a decline in the participation and the general fees. So it just gave you some preliminary numbers, snapshot numbers right here. We're seeing some significant in the 25-26. Typically by now, those fees are paid for. And we are sitting at $160,000, where last year, the budget was, the actual was $229,000, so we are seeing a significant decrease in that. Let's jump to expenditures for Fund 10. You could see, again, the pie chart, I like to compare those from year to year. There's not too much changes with the exception of this chart, I think is more telling. We did make some significant changes this year. And benefits, we are in the budget, we have salaries and benefits that are decreasing. And that is due to just the decline and the decrease in staffing. So with the salaries, it's not just about salaries, but it's also with the benefits. So we will see a decrease in our benefit expenditures, WRS, even the taxes, everything that we also are paying for long-term disability, and the different types of workers' comp, that all goes down the less employees. So that is why you see a decrease there. Our services, our open enrollment's up. Obviously the cost for enrollment actually has increased. So you're gonna see a large part of that green bar there is from open enrollment, because not only are we still have more going out than in, the amount the state is estimating right now to provide for each of those students also raised. So we're seeing an increase even though we're seeing less students go out. Supplies is down. And a transfer to the 27, 38, 46, 99. I just want to touch base that is up from last year because of that special education transfer we're anticipating, with the hopes and the intent maybe there can be some additional flow-through funding that we can still tap into for this year. This is just a comparison specifically with the salaries and benefits. So this is just taking that bar chart, the chart that you just saw, and putting the numbers to it. So you will see the most significant decrease in the salaries and benefits for the 25-26 budget. And this is just the written alignment of it. So staff alignment, 22.2 to 20.7, the difference of 1.5. Our technology and buildings and grounds, we have significantly reduced the budget in those areas. As we are working on a referendum, we don't necessarily put that in our capital improvement for this year because it falls under the referendum. Please note, though, that still does account for any of the preventative maintenance, the filters, everything that we still have to pay for. We're just decreasing those capital projects and then putting them in Fund 46 until we need to obviously come back and utilize those funds. And then for technology, we are going to try to find creative ways to reduce the technology costs with Chromebooks, computers, specifically in the area of Chromebooks, because that is a hefty price tag every year to replace Chromebooks. So we are finding creative ways, such as carts and things, to reduce the amount of one-to-one that we have to purchase and or replace every year. Buildings and the building and department budget reductions we did, and I know we've touched base on this actually in June in the first original budget. We have significantly decreased building and department budgets across the district. So we, and it's actually been a team effort with principals and the directors to say, what are our needs for this year? And what are the things that, okay, it would be nice to have, and it would be a great thing to have, but can we wait 1 year to see where our budget's falling after we have made some significant changes to salaries and benefits and staffing? Quick view of the other funds, and again, this is a lot of this in more detail is in the budget book, so I didn't want to go too much into the weeds in this, but Fund 27, that flow through, I've talked about that. The Fund 3839 debt service, there are large fluctuations in this, and this is why even individuals who would go to the DPI website and look at the WISE staff or the WISE finance information, it's going to look like we spend more than we are taking in for revenues because we made that $10 million prepayment to debt that falls under our expenses. So it is going to look like we have more expenditures going out. So 3839, when we prepay things, it just looks like we're spending more, when really we've just been saving it, part of that fund balance within 3839 to prepay debt at a later point. So prepayment of Fund 38 is complete and moved to Fund 46. Our Fund 40s, which are capital expansion accounts, we do it right now. Interest rates are really favorable. So we are seeing additional funding through those higher interest rates. We have the Fund 46 transfer included. And our Fund 43, if you noticed in the budget book, our Fund 43 went to zero because the Fund 43 no longer exists. So they want it in now Fund 49. So we just have to move that transfer to Fund 49. Fund 50, We are currently spending on the fund balance. We are providing breakfast still for free, and we had to mandatorily, as we talked about when we came to the board for approval of those lunch prices, increase to 0.10 cents for lunch. That's a mandate. And then Fund 80 is our community service, which is all the other individuals and or outside the district. If the district didn't need to have that group in here, then we can charge it under Fund 80. Our SRO also comes from Fund 80. And our Fund 99 or 95, as some districts, the co-op, we transfer those services to CISA. So you'll see a zero there now. Okay. Questions? It's a lot.
Hey, I'll just add a comment. I think it's great for all your work and the whole team. I mean, when you look at where we were at last year at this time and then where we're at today, I mean, it's like night and day when you look at those numbers. And I agree with you. And I think all audience members and those viewing too, that like you said, when you see a surplus, don't look at it like you had an extra check that you didn't have to cash and you can sit on the money. It's got to go somewhere. And so being the stewards that we are, we've got to make sure we're doing the right thing. So thank you for all your help. That's for the whole team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also thanks for the way you've laid this out. It gets increasingly easier to understand, and I feel like, in the beginning, probably part was I just didn't know that much about it. But I just go through it before the meeting, and I don't have the questions I had before. So thank you in the thoroughness of it.
Absolutely.
If there are no other questions, we can entertain a motion.
This one, right? I motion to approve Resolution 102825, parent 1, 2526 revised budget for the Port Washington-Saukville School District.
I'll second.
And we need a roll call.
Karen?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Yvonne? Elisa? Nicole?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Kirsten?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And then we'll move on to the DPI Third Friday pupil count. So we already saw it, so basically we just need to, if there are no questions about it, we did see it in the presentation, so if there are no questions.
Correct, and there is a report connected as well. That is just the general format that I think we've seen historically. So yeah, that's why both of these are under that line item of Report A, because both sets of information were in that report.
So if there are no further questions, we can entertain a motion for that.
I will move, oh shoot, it just disappeared.
I got it. You can second. I will move to approve the DPI Third Friday pupil count report for the 25-26 school year as presented.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Voice vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mine kept like they did. I would click on it.
And then we will move on to certification of the tax levy.
I will move to approve, do we need to present it? We just,
If no one has any questions.
Unless you have questions, but nope, that was part of the information to part of that report.
okay. I move to approve Resolution 102725, Parents 2, approval of the tax levy for the 2025-26 school year to support the approved budget.
I'll second.
And we will do a roll call.
Brian?
Aye.
Yvonne?
Aye.
Elisa?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Kirsten?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And then we will move on to the certification of the tax and revenue anticipated borrowing.
So just a little background on this. This is, the board has seen this for the last 3 years now. So this is an anticipated borrowing amount not to exceed $3 million. We have never utilized that, but it just gives us the ability to short-term borrow, as I mentioned in the report here as well, up to that 5.5% interest. We do partner with our local state bank, Port Washington State Bank, on this, and they've been great partners to have with that turnaround.
Right. I will move to approve the certification of tax and revenue anticipated borrowing in the amount not to exceed $3 million at a 5.5% interest rate from Port Washington State Bank.
I will second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Yvonne?
Aye.
Elisa?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Kirsten?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Motion passed.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn our budget hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Does anyone need a break before we start our regular meeting? We're all good? Okay. And give me 1 second. And we will call to order at 6:50 our regular board meeting, and we are all present. And if anyone would like to join for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And can I invite our student council reps up, and if you'll introduce yourself? We're happy to have you with us this year.
High School Board, I'm Noah Blavitt. I am the Port Washington Student Council's upperclassman liaison. Just wanted to update you with a few, like what's happening around the school. We just came off of a super successful homecoming. The weekend all was very successful, super successful pep assembly. The dance went well. And then this past weekend, we had Trick or Treat for the Hungry, which is always a super popular and successful event with our students. So that's just like the students are going out and getting non-perishables, and then we bring those to the food pantry. And then pre-ACT results will come out this week, so hopefully we can utilize these to help better the education of our students. And then our quarter ends November 7th. We have our Veterans Day Assembly on November 11th. That's an annual thing. Excited for that. And then our musical will start. There's show dates the 7th, the 8th, and the 11th. And then the next thing Student Council is working on is our Thanksgrams. So that's just like something the student body does. Like you get little cards and then like send them to your friends or teachers or whatever that may be.
Can you tell me again the Veterans Day? The date, was it 11, did you say?
Yes, November 11th.
Thanks.
So question on the trick or treat.
Yes.
For the hungry. Do the students dress up? in costumes
When
or
I've
anything?
done it before, I have dressed up, but not everyone does. Normally, it's either like they dress up or they'll just wear port gear.
Okay. Nice, thank you.
I love the trick or treating.
Yes.
I have a request as a resident of Saukville, if we
Yes.
could expand into Saukville. I know last year they
Preach,
just
girl,
did.
I've been at it for 20 years, it never
I'm-
happens.
I won't stop trying.
Go.
Yeah, it would just be great to also be able to participate in
Yes.
Saukville.
I can definitely bring that to the student council and see what we can do about that for
Awesome.
further years.
Thank you.
And one more question on that. Do you guys weigh that before you take it in, or do the food pantries weigh it? Because I know I see you guys pulling your wagons.
I think they weigh it for us.
Okay.
I've never individually done it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, any other questions?
Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to our school year with you.
Thank you.
And then we'll move on to the superintendent report.
Yep, so October Superintendent's Report is where we recognize what next month we will be celebrating, so we're always looking to the future. So we will celebrate National School Psychology Week next week, November 3rd through the 7th, and also American Education Week is always that week before Thanksgiving where we'll celebrate. Also give a quick update on the potential School Board Member 101, giving community members interested in running for school board an opportunity to learn a little bit more about that. So just a quick update about that and some more KPIs to bring to the board. So it is National School Psychology Week next week, so a huge shout out to Lori, Danielle, Molly, and Caitlin that do so much for our district. We have 4 school psychologists this year. At the high school, we are using a CISA service to fill in for the later shift at that role. So currently, these are our 4 amazing school psychologists that do so much for all of our buildings. I think back to the role of an elementary principal and the very important role our school psychologists play with counseling, AP, all of the roles at our elementary level, and then certainly our middle school and high school, expanding that to connections with our counseling team. So we celebrate them next week, but wanted to celebrate with you tonight. As it relates to potential school board member 101, this, I guess I should rename it. It's not potential. This event is happening, but if you are interested in being a school board member, there is potential for you. So please join me on December 1st. We'll go through the guide for candidates and what WASB provides related to that. I'd like to provide an overview of the strategic plan and really the goals that this board has set on what we want to improve this district with. So if interested, please email me or call district office to be a part of that event. And speaking of strategic plan, each month I bring a couple KPIs for you. You've already seen the open enrollment, so we won't spend too much time, but you can see that we saw a decrease in that gap. So 24-25, we had a gap of 25 students leaving us, 160 to 185, where this year we saw a 5% increase to 168 students in and only 180 out. Wanting to really truly at least level that off by next year to say the same amount coming in as going out. And then future years, like we've talked about with Saukville Elementary, being really close to many of those areas where people can leave, whether it's West Bend or Grafton or Cedarburg, having an elementary school right on that cusp of our edge of our district will hopefully entice people to either stay or open enroll to us. We also talk about moderating from the financial standpoint. As we think about workers' comp, this can be a significant cost for us. This is an area that we significantly exceed expectations. We shared last year around $70,000 in savings with a mod rating of 0.67 as we project for January 2026 in those renewals for insurance. We're at a 0.66, so similar savings and the importance of talking about those 3-year claims of insurance and workers' comp. So. ACT is also in. The state scores were available on Wise-Public in October, and so we now can report out that our district exceeds expectations as it relates to the class of 2026. So this year's seniors, last year when they took the ACT, their average composite score as a group was 21.8. That is our highest average ACT composite score in history, I believe. Not to put you on the spot, but I just provided the last 4 years. So you can see the class of 2025 is 21.1, class of 2024, 21.1, and the class of 23 was 20.5. So we are at that exceeds expectations, working towards that significantly exceed expectations at 23.5. Yes, absolutely. So at my last meeting with Rachel, we did check in to see what is the composite average of all the districts, of all the high schools in the state. And so we are certainly within that top 25 schools in the state of Wisconsin as it relates to composite average score for the class of 2026. Our last KPI that I wanted to report out on, this is something that I do think will have to come back to the board as it relates to our rubric. Our rubric is pretty tight in the windows. This was modeled after another district that had a similar KPI, but we failed to meet expectations as it relates to staff retention. So if you take the last 5 years of resignations of staff, this is not retirements, but this is resignations. You can see our average resignations over the last 5 years is 12.2 resignations. Last year we had 14, and so that is an increase compared to the average. So we are greater than 2%. In looking at those numbers, I think they may have been based on a bigger district. However, we approved these, and so I want to be certainly transparent that we saw more staff resign last year than our 5-year average. You can see the years 24-25 was 14, 23-24 was 10, 22-23 was 16, 21-22 was 11, and 2020-2021 was 10. You can also see that we'd like to possibly include what the state average is into a future rubric, that the Wisconsin state turnover rate for teachers last year was 12.9. So we are exactly what the state did was what we did compared to our average. That's from the Wisconsin Policy Forum study. So.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so this is not necessarily all staff, right? Does this include like EAs or
Correct.
support type staff?
So this is certified staff only. This would kind of be that, as we think about the roughly 200 staff that are contracted certified staff.
Okay,
That's this number comes from.
thank you.
Were the non-renewals included in that number?
No, they weren't.
Okay.
So in an effort to continue to be transparent, wanting to bring these KPIs, all 26. So we brought 3 tonight. So if I could keep that average, you got 1 or 2 over the next few months, but wanting to continue to bring this back as these are the goals and these are the action steps that our teams are working forward to improve. So, any questions on this? I did, that's right. It was a busy month for KPIs. Next month, November, will be very busy as school report cards are released on November 11th, and many of our KPIs are grounded in something from that state report card.
Great. I don't have much of a report, but I just did want to thank all of our staff and our students for a successful homecoming week and all the efforts that went into parades and window painting and the tailgate, and that was a lot of work for everybody. And I know it's an exciting week, but it's a lot of work from our administrators and our staff. So thank you to all of them for making that a successful week. And then board, our future dates are in there. And
I just wanted to point out on that, the 17th, it was changed to 5:30. It shows at 6 o'clock in here, correct?
One note, yeah, I was going to note that we have moved committee level meetings from the second Monday to the third Monday, so we will meet on November 17th, and we'll finalize if that's 5:30 or 6.
Oh, okay.
Yep. We will for sure have curriculum. It'll still be determined if we were going to bring finance that night. If it's just curriculum, it would be 6 o'clock.
And then the district committee updates. Did anyone meet with a district-wide committee since last month?
We met safety committee last Monday, and they'll be bringing something to us next month, right, Brian? Safety?
Yes.
And it was really good. I learned a lot.
So can you just share with who was all involved in the committee meetings as far as local?
So Saukville Police Department was there, Port Washington Police Department, the Sheriff Department, Jason, the SRO, was there, Fire Department was there, Joe, right? That's his name. All of the building administrators were there. St. John's, the 23rd, was also there, if I'm remembering correctly. So a lot of good stuff that they covered. And again, they're going to go over some stuff with us. And I think we'll also be in closed session too on some things, right?
Today. Yep. Thank you. Anyone else meet? Okay. I don't have any public comment papers, so I assume we have no public comment.
Oh, wait, board committee. I'm waiting to report
Oh,
on the
you
committee.
have report on committee. Sorry.
Curriculum committee. Thank you. The curriculum committee met on Monday, October 13th, 5:30. And there were a lot of people that were there beyond the committee members. Called to order at 5:31. We got an update on academic and career planning and also on AP results and also ACT results. And we adjourned at 6:27 PM. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to consent agenda, which includes minutes and committee reports, business service report, human resources report. Does anybody have any questions on any of those?
I'll pose my standing question regarding staff resignations and whether we've done exit interviews with these folks yet.
Yep, I reach out to all of those staff members. We continue to encourage the digital survey that we send out. That has not been as well received. More staff have been interested in working, just meeting one-on-one with me. None of these resignations have met one-on-one with me, though.
I have a question about the art advisor and the elementary student council positions. Are we starting up student council? I know some elementary schools had one, but are we starting one at every school, or?
Yes, this was something we had noticed, that some buildings had the opportunity for leadership at the elementary level, with some buildings being run by someone leading student council. We see this as connected to leadership and life-ready opportunities for elementary, so we're expanding that and offering that as a stipend for all buildings for student council at the elementary level.
Okay. Has someone been identified at each building, or is that just if someone's interested, there's funding there for it?
Yep, so we'll start with one of the buildings that was being led by a specific position. So we've reached out to other people in other buildings with that same position to see if they'd be interested, but really open to anyone that has that passion that's willing to lead.
Okay, thank you.
And for the additional art club stipend, you also had asked about that. That one is because our art club at the middle school has done significantly good things, and their enrollment like doubled. So we need 2 advisors. So instead of them splitting a stipend, it has been added to the budget, which both of these things are in this budget, by the way, as well. So coming in.
If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda, but I'd like to pull schedule of bills 9.2.
Second.
And we will do a roll call.
Sarah,
Aye.
Kirsten,
Aye.
Stephanie,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Yvonne,
Aye.
Elisa,
Aye.
Nicole,
Aye.
Justin,
All right.
Karen.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Do we need a motion on 9.2? All right, I move to approve consent agenda item 9.2,
Schedule of bills.
scheduled bills.
And we need a second
I will second.
and a roll call.
Kirsten,
Aye.
Stephanie,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Yvonne,
Aye.
Elisa,
Aye.
Nicole,
Aye.
Justin,
All right.
Karen,
Aye.
Sarah.
Abstain.
Motion passed.
And we will move on to the Kelly Education Report.
Yeah, so I'd like to invite Sarah from Kelly Education to come speak with the board tonight. This is a change that we made as a district to shift towards Kelly Education, and I believe we were referring to it as Teachers on Call back then, back in the day, as an opportunity to expand subbing services and really think about the role that it plays at HR at district office and the amount of time that was put into onboarding, regularly hiring substitutes. So we have moved towards Kelly Education and would like to just take some time to go through their slideshow.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Sarah Norman Bardo, and I'm a client manager with Kelly Education, formerly Teachers On Call, and we do provide full-service staffing for a lot of the districts in the area. So we just started our partnership with you guys at the beginning of this school year, which was the beginning of September. So I'm just going to report on some data this year versus last year for September. And so the first slide I'm showing here is your absence request overall by month. So overall means for the positions that we fill, which would be teachers and special education paras. So the gray is last year, and then the green is this year. So we are looking at September, I believe. Did you start
So
on the
flip
third?
that. So
Sorry.
25, 26 is gray. So we
Yes.
had significantly higher requests
yes.
this year.
Thank you. And then you guys started on September 3rd this year, was that correct, or 4th? Yeah, and then I pulled this data through October 22nd, and then I will obviously update the data at the end of the week and then send it back to the district office. But just like looking at 388 requests versus 433, and we were able to fill those at 71%. So I'm working closely with the district office, looking at your fill rates from last year, and then looking at how we can increase those by pulling a couple different levers on our side as well. So for the next slide, we talk about lead times. So when your employees need a substitute, we do ask that they put that absence into the frontline management system as soon as possible. So really, once they know that they have like an appointment, need a day off, have anything that they would need a substitute for, they can access the frontline management system, which you guys had already used and we partner with, to put in for a need for a sub. That goes out immediately to your sub pool and anyone who's already not working that day for them to take the job. And so we just always monitor the lead time. So typically, if you can get that, the longer the lead time, the more likely it will get filled. So this chart shows that 66% of your absences were entered in greater than 24 hours, and we successfully filled 80% of those. So just reminding your staff that when they need a sub, to put it in as soon as they can. And then our cancellation policy is just 1 hour before the start of that assignment. So if your teacher had thought maybe they were going to be ill or be out, and then, the morning of comes and they're like, oh, I actually can go to work today, they are allowed to cancel that within the system within an hour of the start time. And then typically, as you know, your building probably still needs a substitute somewhere else. So your admins can work with that sub to maybe fill another position in that building, or maybe call one of the other buildings in the area and ask if they could use the substitute. So still some movement can happen for that sub. And if for some reason your district can't use them, they would still be able to pick up a position in a neighboring district that day if they choose. So just really like to report on the lead time, because it does show the sooner that we can get them in, the better the chance is to fill. That under 12-hour window does get a little bit sticky, because we have found out that our substitutes do like to plan. Even though they like the flexible schedule, we don't always find that they wake up at 5 a.m. like they used to and, hop on a job. So just like friendly reminder on the lead time. So that's a good one. Next,
Can I ask you a question? So, am I reading this right? This after assignment starts, does that actually say the school starts at 7 o'clock and then the teacher calls in at 7:10?
No,
Or
that would be for any that were already open.
Oh, those were, okay.
Correct. And so then maybe we still worked and got someone to you later after the start time, or maybe your admin, phoned a friend down the street and
Sure.
got them to come
Okay.
in. Yeah.
All
So we
right.
do still work closely with your admins
I was
on
kind of
that.
questioning that for a minute because I thought, wow, that'd be kind of a bad thing to do. But,
And we,
but hey, you got 75% to come in, so,
right? And we do use text messaging a lot now. And so if we're texting those folks in the morning 7, 8, 9, and someone's like, oh, I could pick up maybe half of the shift, we'll go ahead and give your admin a
Smart,
call
yeah.
and say, would you take them, starting at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m.
I see.
And then we do send them over.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then I really wanted to break it down overall by building so that your principals and admin can kind of see how they're doing so far. So Dunwoody here is first, and really just showing that they have a few more approved FMLA leaves this year versus last year. So we were able to fill those with a couple long-term positions. But I'll keep the chart going as we go throughout the year. Just so you can kind of keep track of what the absence reasons are. Do you have any questions on that one? No, I saw one of the. Yeah. Okay. And then for Lincoln here, looking really at just a sick leave, but trending similar to last year. And Saukville Elementary, so sick leave, and we are trending a little higher to last year. And then Thomas Jefferson has 63 days of approved FMLA so far, and then 52 sick leave. And then the last one, of course, is the high school, just has some sick leave as well. So obviously, starting the beginning of the year, we do see some sick leave with the teachers, but have the subs that are willing and ready to jump into those, which is great as well. And then when we took over and we did a transition, we did work with the district office to get your previous sub-pool list. So we did have a list that was given to us, about 44 on the original transition list. So out of the 44 that you had previously had working in the district with you, we were able to hire 24 of them on to Kelly Education. So now they still are in your businesses, but through us. And then about 20 others we call disengaged. So they either found other work, they moved, maybe they just didn't choose to sub yet, but they will always be welcome to come on board. And then since then, we have also hired 24 net new. So that would be brand new substitutes that have not been in your district before, are currently active and working. And then we have 10 in our onboarding process. So somewhere between they filled out an interest form and they are almost ready to go, we have 10. And just to share a little bit, we do have recruiters in the area who attend different job fairs, colleges. We work a lot with Southeastern Wisconsin, JobWorks, and so just actively recruiting. We always say 365 days a year that we can recruit and get more talent. So right now with the pool sitting at 48, we do have a goal to have it be 75 by the end of the December. So we are actively recruiting for you. But filling at 71%, we are pretty happy with that so far overall, and just excited to get that number moving. Do you guys have any questions for me?
What are the requirements to be a sub?
So we do follow all of the state guidelines. So to be a special ed para in the state of Wisconsin, you do have to go on to the DPI and apply for a special ed aid license. You just have to have that and then your high school diploma. But to be a substitute teacher in the classroom, you do have to have an associate's degree in any field and 60 hours of training. And then we do offer through the DPI a substitute training course. They also have other ones offered by Steady and a few other social learnings, those are all self-paced online that the substitute would take, and then they pass the test through the DPI, and they do pay to get the licensure themselves. So that would be the only thing that they would pay for. Otherwise, if they sign up through anything else through us, we do already take care of the background check, verify any of their licensure, and then do all of the mandatory training and things. And for the paras, because they don't have to, if it's just like a regular para or even the special ed, we do also provide them with a 4-hour online learning course before we put them in the classroom. We do understand that they may not have any experience with any special ed or behaviors of children, so we do try to give them some management and classroom training beforehand.
Do you have any comments for us, Michael, on how it's been working out?
I would just add to this particular page and the ability for Kelly Education to recruit and their goal to get more subs than we had in our pool last year is significant. I think back 5 years ago, I had Mel run some numbers. We had almost 6 more FTE positions working at district office to do some of this work. And as we've scaled back and cut many of those positions, for example, Carolyn was doing a lot of this work last year, and she has now taken on new roles to be the board secretary. So as we've seen fewer staff at district office, tapping into a resource like Kelly Education has been huge for us, and ultimately could result in more subs coming to us. And I think that's the end game of this decision. So certainly thanks to Sarah for being here and all the work that she's done and bringing more subs. And we're still early in the process, but the subs that I have talked to that are new have found a positive home in Port Washington-Saukville, many of which have lived here and just said, I saw it pop up, and now I'm subbing in my hometown. So
I can chime in here. So I was meeting with Sarah and the team like once a week during the summer. Even now, if I get calls or people interested, I include the name and the number on them, and I send it to our teams here at Kelly Education. And the feedback I've gotten, the quick action, has been amazing. So I've enjoyed working with them, and we meet still monthly just to touch base. And I appreciate you putting together the data in quick time. I mentioned that Michael loves that, and just kind of the fact that we are able to reflect back to what we did last year and kind of see the benefit that it's been. So I appreciate your work on that and coming this evening.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you
very much
Thank you.
for the information. We appreciate it.
Yep.
And now we are going to move on to our R&R insurance broker information. Who's the clicker?
Who am I looking at for the click?
Do you want to click?
So I just have the PDF so I can scroll.
Scroll.
Is that okay?
So I am honored and pleased to introduce Michelle from R&R Insurance. I know that we've had some board updates on this. So we recently went to RFP, a request for proposal, for health insurance, specifically health insurance, but insurance brokers. And we did interview R&R, Brown and Brown. I always want to say Hayes, and also ANSE. And unanimously, R&R and Michelle and her team were our top choice. We are excited for this partnership in the future. And already there's been some really positive things, and just, for example, with the needs between Ascension and UMR, we've had to communicate that with our staff, and Michelle and Jen and her team have just been fantastic and very timely response. And this transition, I'm already giddy and excited about it. So I will turn it over to her because she does a lot better job explaining everything and the nuances with insurance. But I thank you very much for coming and being here tonight, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm giddy and excited too. So thank you for having me in today. You guys have been great listeners, and your explanation of all that stuff in the budget, that was really good. You can see you were a teacher. So again, thanks for having me in. As Mel mentioned, I have a whole team of phenomenal people that work with me. I'm pleased to call them not only my colleagues, but my friends. And so when I'll be coming in and talking to you, or Mel is talking to you about reporting and how the plan performance is doing, know that that's not all me. I'm just kind of like, I get to be the show host or whatever, but it is really my service partner and our analytics team and well-being and Medicare. We're just really well-rounded, which is really one of the biggest differentiators for us here at R&R. I know you are familiar with R&R. I believe you work with us on the PNC side of the house too, which I was really glad to see where the mod was going for the district. And so if we scroll down, I don't have to go into too much information about R&R. Other than that, what I really feel very proud about is that we are, the state's largest family-owned independent agency, which means the district's money is also staying in the state and in the communities that we're serving, which isn't the case with all of the different brokers that are out there. What really sets us apart, what are some of our differentiators are, is again, that we have not only like the PNC component of insurance, we have our personal lines insurance, but when you have employees, when you have employees who might have some other needs, we're going to be able to help when it comes to your well-being program, because we have people on staff. If there's compliance and legal questions, we got that. For your folks that are getting ready to retire, so they're not even at Medicare age, we have solutions for them, so what they can do for insurance and not necessarily stay on the district's insurance with COBRA, or when they are getting close to Medicare age. So we have all of these different services that are right within our team, which is fantastic. We have a wonderful experience in the school industry, so this isn't our first rodeo, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited to work with Port Washington, because we work with so many of the other districts right around here, and just today I put together another little coalition to save some districts money on things like, physical therapy and imaging and walk-in care that's at a reduced cost. So we're able to pull a lot of these ideas together because we have such a strong experience in the school district industry. We understand insurance, which I was actually a teacher for 20 years before I went into insurance 13 years ago. So it's just like, what's the big puzzle? And we're able to take it and digest it and figure out, okay, what's really going on? What's causing this inflation in healthcare to be exponentially higher than everything else? And there's what's causing it, but also then what can we do about it? And so when we look at, we know that, healthcare costs are continuing to go up. What can we do about that? We know that the Port Washington-Saukville School District has already taken the right steps with moving to self-funding. And by being self-funded, you've been able to kind of dodge some of the curves of rising healthcare costs, because in that yellow box, you have control. When you're self-funded, you have control to pull some levers. And so we know that you've made already the choice to move to the Nexus network, which is fantastic. You're going to see some great savings and reduced costs there if people are guided to that. And so part of our, our expertise is going to be educating your people on how self-funding works, why they want to take an active role in that, and how they can help, contain some of these costs. So we know about what you have for pharmacy benefits as like having National Cooperative and CVS, but there are a whole lot of programs right within your pharmacy benefit manager that we're going to be able to work with you on to make sure that the right pieces are in the right place to try to drive down costs without compromising the great benefits that you offer. So we're going to look at our menu. So we have this, what are all these different solutions that are out there? And not every one is going to be a fit for every single solitary school district. So we're going to look specifically at Port Washington-Saukville and say, out of this menu of what we can do for self-funded employers, what do we know that we can tap into right now, just in our short time together, by looking over the plan documents and things, what we can do to help you to contain costs. So when we look at specifically for you, you have a two-tier program. You have employee costs and family costs. That's kind of a holdover from back in the WEA days to just have two-tier structures. So we can do an evaluation, so something that we already have planned out, which you'll see in the timeline, of do we need to look at 3 and 4-tier structures? We have the Nexus network, but do people know really how to find those top-tier providers, those Tier 1 providers? Looking again, as I mentioned, at the formulary for the pharmacy. So out of that menu, what are the pieces that we know can benefit Port Washington-Saukville School District? So that's what kind of our goal is right away, to start shifting some of those levers for you. We understand what your needs are. We're able to look. I love the things about school districts. You know, I can find all your information online. And so we know what your strategic initiatives are, super transparent. And we understand that we have vitality in place, for example, as your well-being component. We had an internal meeting about vitality today, because as an agency, we use it too. And we're in the top 10 of all vitality users at our agency. So what we do for our own employees and drive utilization is something then we can just say, this is working, let's try these things right here in Port Washington. So again, it's going to go across the board. We have experience working with the Aurora Clinic, and obviously, like I mentioned, with UMR and National Cooperative and things like that. So we will be educating your staff as much as possible, because we can put the best benefits in place, but if people don't know how to use them efficiently and effectively, it's not gonna get the biggest bang for the buck. And so our education and the information that we're sharing with your employees, they're gonna have mobile access. They're gonna have little wallet cards. It's going to be materials that the employees have access to, no matter when in the year they have questions regarding their benefits. It's not just open enrollment. You know, when you guys are at the end of the school year, it's in May, I got news. Your staff is not really thinking real hardcore about open enrollment, and then your plan is for July 1st, and maybe they don't have any needs for their insurance until October. Well, with the way we're setting up your benefit program and all of our communications, it's at open enrollment, but it's strategically done throughout the year with resources they have access to. So we'll have the benefit guide that's very robust, but again, other communication pieces. Just, was it yesterday or Friday, we took like a teledoc document, so that when there are newsletters going out to the staff, we have made some changes already to improve that, so people know where they can get low-cost care 24/7. So taking some of those materials and, again, doing it throughout the year. So I think, again, having our experience with districts and knowing what's been successful, it's going to just bode very well for the district here. We have a very strategic timeline already laid out for the short term. Mel was good enough to meet with us last week just to put our calendar together for the next, I think it's 14 months, because we have the rest of this year and then already getting everything planned out for future years, or for this upcoming year, but then also long into the future. So we really look at this as a partnership. R&R, we're here to serve you and the community. We want you to be able to offer the best benefits that is also fiscally responsible, because I want to be able to come back and say, yep, as far as at least the benefits are concerned, we're still hitting that budget and we're keeping your target to keep your budget balanced. So we have a nice long plan for 25, 26, 27. And hopefully longer. And we understand what your core beliefs are. You guys have to focus on students. You guys have to focus on, doing right by the community. So you need to lean on us to handle everything that's related to the employee benefits, so that you can focus on the kids in the schools. So, do you have any questions for me about R&R insurance?
Not necessarily a question, but just a comment that we're so excited to have you. And this was such a comprehensive, impressive presentation, and just what you're going to bring to our district as a whole. And I think our biggest, and you touched on it many times, it's going to be educating our staff on all these new things that they're going to have access to. And I think that's going to be, I don't want to say challenge, but it's going to be the thing that's going to, I think, drive this the most, is getting our staff on board and knowing what services they now have that we didn't have for them before. but thank you for being our partner and for the presentation to get the board to know exactly what the excitement that's going to happen and the resources and services that our staff will have.
It's my pleasure. People don't always get excited about insurance, but I'm glad. But I do, and we can do it together. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Great. And then we are going to go to the second reading of our mission vision policy. And we will need to have a vote on that after we go over it.
Yes, so we did the first reading in September. We have not made any changes, but has anyone had any, as you reflect on this at night, Brian especially, any thoughts or changes before we do the second reading?
I appreciate you asking, but no, I haven't had any additional thoughts on it.
All right, with that, I will move to approve the second reading of revised Board Bylaw 0160 as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we now have a new mission statement. Thank you. And then we'll move on to an update on the ACT and advanced placement.
Yeah, so just a quick note, I will work with Neola to get that updated into board docs. That's our partner as it relates to board policy, and they will work on getting that all updated. So I'd invite Jen Clapper and Rachel to speak to what was presented curriculum 2 weeks ago, but just for that global perspective on all that is happening at our high school as it relates to ACT, AP, and ACP plan.
Michael, while Rachel comes up, will you also work to update it on like the website? I know we have some vision statements that appeared and things like that. Okay.
Yep, we'll work with Matt to get all that updated. You're starting to see it a little bit in some of the other things that he's been sharing, but it's a mission that I think we can all connect with.
Are you the masterful clicker here, Michael?
I will give you this, so.
That'd be great.
It's a lot of.
I can try to remember, but thanks. Okay, well, hello again. Many of you we had a chance to talk with a couple of weeks ago, so it's exciting to be back. We're going to talk about the 3 A's, ACP, ACT, AP. So just to start with, the ACP piece is about our Employment for Education plan, which is something that we bring before the board annually to review. Our last review and approval was in May of 2024, and we are taking this year to make adjustments and tweaks. We just talked with our ACP committee actually this past Friday as part of our PD day and said that this gets to be part of our adventure this year. There's much that we've done, like adding an 8th grade exploration day and some new teammates to the adventure, which we're so blessed to have. So this will be an ongoing process, and we will be coming back to you later this year with all of those updates. So just exciting to share that. And that is something that, yes, you annually get to see and say yay or nay. That, again, is just what that card is looking at. Then we'll just get into advanced placement, and I'll turn it over to Jen.
So we do have a pretty strong advanced placement program at the high school. Basically, AP offers college-level courses that students can get credit for if they pass their exam at the end of the term. So one of the main benefits is allowing students to experience the rigor of college-level courses and do that with the safety net and support of a high school teacher. And they can get college credit. If they do get college credit, a lot of times they can get advanced standing. Some go into college as sophomores, which is huge for registration. And then it's just a lot less expensive. It is $100 a test, which is a cost, but it's still a lot less than paying for that college course when you get to the college. And then you don't have to take those classes in college, which will save you some time too. And then we had last year we had 162 individual students take 315 exams. So multiple students took multiple exams, which is why the difference in the numbers. And 144 of those 162 students did earn a passing grade on at least one of their exams, which is an 89%. So that is a number to be proud of for our high school. We also had last year 35 AP scholars, 14 AP scholars with honors, and 22 scholars with distinction. So 71 total scholars, which is an increase in the number of scholars, even though we had a decrease in the number of students that took AP. So also quite positive.
Can I, sorry.
Yes.
I apologize for missing the committee meeting. I was wondering if you could just kind of hypothesize why there was a drop-off in the number of students from 24, 25. I know it's kind of been a focus, Rachel, for you to expose more students, so.
Yeah, I think one of the things we had talked about, Kirsten, I remember we were talking about, like, one, we don't want barriers. So if that costs, so one of the things, Mr. Mason reminded me, he's our counselor that helps oversee our AP testing as well. He's a big cog in the wheel, a form to have a payment plan. So if that was a barrier, we want to help minimize that if we can. Certainly there's also opportunities for students that if they qualify for other options like free and reduced, that they have options to have that not be that barrier piece. And then I think ultimately too, it's how do we continue to message around the students that are taking that opportunity are seeing success. So Mr. Mason recently sent out an email blast that sign up for tests is coming up. That's a mid-November happening. And when we can share data that says 90% of students or a fuzz under are scoring 3 or higher, which means they're going to get credit there or in that elective area, that would be a helpful hope. I haven't asked the 162 kids that took those classes, why is it 24 less than the year before? I think part of it is having offerings on the table. For instance, are we running all those classes? Do we see that robust number coming into it? So, for instance, we're not running AP Chem this year, but we're running AP Environmental Science or AP Calc AB is not running, but BC is. That's not to say that wasn't the case last year, but some of that can be factors too in terms of what we've got running. So,
and I don't know for
two
sure
different
either.
hypotheses, but
I can also throw in there that your junior year tends to be the year when you take the most AP courses, and we had that big bubble of kids go through that year who are now our seniors. So that's probably another small reason why.
the goal is 2/3 of kids would at least take that. We have 302 unique individual students currently taking an AP course. So how we continue to say, hey, certain schools, if you look up their course guide, it says you take this course, you have to take the exam.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that that's what a comprehensive high school here in Port Washington-Saukville is necessarily looking for. And I don't know that I would ever sit here and promote that. However, in my mind, 2/3 of kids, and if there's a barrier, let's take it away. So, great question. I don't know if that was a great answer, but I think there's a few different factors that can impact that.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's just comforting to know that you're having these conversations and removing any potential barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. I would never want finance to be the reason for anything happening or not happening, especially when we have public education that allows for those opportunities.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then for the 23-24 school year, our district was bronze in terms of the number of students who earned passing grades and took the test and scored like 5s and better and 3s and better and such. They did change when they will give that designation, so now we will find out in January if we continue to qualify. We are hoping that we will at least continue to qualify at the bronze level, but that will be discovered in January. So the fact that we have a lot of things going on with that, as mentioned, the 89% of students got a passing score on an AP test. AP Environmental Science is running again, which is fabulous. We have AP Pre-Calc this year, which is the first year that's running. We have more AP Scholars. We have 302 students that are currently enrolled. So 37.6% of our students are enrolled in an AP class. So that is an awesome number there. And then more students passed last year. And then we do have a couple of goals that we'd like to do. Increase the number of students that actually take the AP exam as opposed to just take the course. And then continue to open up some additional course offerings. Some of the ones we're thinking about for next year include AP Personal Finance, Human Geography, Econ, and Seminar. And then we are hoping, again, to continue at least that bronze rating for next year, or once we find out. Where did it go? There we go.
All right, ACT. This has become a really great friend of mine for the last several years. I've been in a high school setting for 18 years. I quick fact checked Dr. McMahon. It's been a state test since 2014, 2015. We tied for the highest AP score that we've ever had at 21.8. Composite, that was a quick fact check in Wise-Public while I was sitting over there, 16-17 school year. So it's our highest composite in a few years. So it's nice to see that that's the case. But realizing that this is a measurement, it's one test. And really, if anything, it's an autopsy for us to see what we're teaching in the classrooms and how we continue to look to close gaps, especially in our 4 core areas, knowing that things like reading and math are linchpins to success well beyond no matter what you choose to do. Some things new for us in 2026 is that we're going to have an all-day testing day, March 17th. We'll bring in everyone to test. So our pre-ACT Secure and our ACT will be on the same day. And then working with, thinking back to the first A we talked about, which is academic and career planning, that we're going to have an opportunity in the afternoon to do some concrete work with academic and career planning, so we're not running a class schedule. We're having that as an opportunity to do something else. If you've ever tested and then jumped back into classes like they did this fall, that's not necessarily your first choice. It's an opportunity to do something else that day, though, and we're excited to try that and utilize that. And realistically, too, it's about, and Noah talked about this, how do we take the information that we received this fall to continue to grow? What are strengths we see? What are growth areas? Our students in homeroom will receive paper copies of their pre-ACT, our 9th through 11th graders. Our seniors get to ring the bell of no more standardized tests. They have other things to do, like explore and job shadow and work, et cetera. But our students that'll get those item analysis back this week, where can we continue to utilize that to best service our students? And we will continue with our sessions in the spring. The reality is this: there is the knowledge of the test, and then there's the understanding. There's a reason you practice driving before you get behind the wheel, right? You want to have some opportunity on the road. We want to give them some practice sessions to have some opportunity on the road so they can show what they know. And so we'll continue to incentivize that. I don't know about you, but it's nice to cross the finish line. And so incentives can be great. Intrinsic and extrinsic carrots seem to work at all age levels, including 15 to 18-year-olds. So we'll continue with that. In terms of how we did this past year, some knowledge already on that, but you can see where our juniors last year, which is the class of 2026, on that bottom line level, the difference, you can see that we upticked or were plus in terms of those state averages. So again, we are in the top 21 scores in the state this year. I think that that's something to be proud of. But more than that, it's about our kids learning and growth. Comparison can be the thief of joy. So I want to make sure that we always look at that with a bit of a cautionary tale, but I'll be the first to tell you that we want to continue to shoot for the moon. And so how can we continue to just do the best we can for our kids? In this longitudinal look, from our pre-ACT data that we did in the fall to our pre-ACT and secure, not to be confused, we do a pre-ACT like dipstick in the fall measurement, I like to call it. Secure is what it's called now, pre-ACT secure, and then the ACT junior year. I think it's really impactful to look at your fall to fall and spring to spring. We talk about a year's growth in a year's time. And if there was ever a way you wanted a line graph to look, that would be it. And that is an upward trajectory. So kudos to the class of 2026, and kudos to our staff for the time and dedication and care and love they put into this. And I'll just reemphasize again how important it is to have a role like an ACP strategist. Jen's ability to not only help pull data for us, but then be a part of instructional coaching and the glue of our ACP work. We haven't had this role, so I want to thank Sarah and Michael especially. We meet regularly, and it's really fun to have these conversations and then say, okay, how can we granulate it down to the classroom and not just talk about pie in the sky? Because that's sometimes where it can get lost. Like, okay, we have this, so what, now what? What questions do you have for us?
I think we should say that this is something that committee did see. So sometimes when we don't have a lot of questions, it's because we've already had an hour's worth of questions at a previous meeting. So
for anyone watching, we were able to navigate all hours worth of questions that were really, really good. So we appreciate that work in committee. But we're happy to answer any other ones or those that aren't on that committee.
thank you so much. I'm actually really proud to see those numbers going up, as should you. And like you said, it's one measure, but it is a measure that is reported statewide. So to say that trajectory continuously moving upward is something to really be proud of. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I don't think we have any board correspondence tonight, so I will make a motion to convene to closed session pursuant Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parent 1, subparent E, for the purpose of discussing the potential purchase of public property, and per Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parent 1, subparent D, for the purpose of reviewing standard response protocol drill evaluation data. And that does require a second.
I will second.
And we'll do a roll call vote.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Yvonne?
Aye.
Elisa?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Kirsten?
Aye.
Motion passed.